The first time I remember hearing the N-word, I was in kindergarten. I was at recess playing with my Cabbage Patch doll that happened to be black, and one of the older kids came up and just said, "What are you doing with that N-word doll?" I won't even say it now. I won't say that word. I think it's horrible. It was something that was used to oppress my ancestors, to make them feel like less than human, to humiliate them, and I will not use that word. I don't think it belongs in any context, and I don't think that even black people should use that word with each other. Just my opinion. This is my story of growing up mixed in America. It's my experience. It may not be everybody's experience. In fact, everybody's is a little bit different, but I think it's important for people to share their stories, and I want to share mine with you to show you my perspective. Maybe you're mixed like me, maybe you are black, maybe you are white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever it is. It's important to understand each other, so I want to share my story with you. When I came home and told my mom that this kid used this word, I don't remember the exact words my mom said. I was 5, but I do remember that she basically said, "Don't worry about it. People will say hateful things. People will say mean things. Don't be discouraged by them. Don't let them bring you down." And that was a big deal to me, because there's, especially now, I don't know why you're seeing whether it's more racism or just more exposed racism in America right now. But I think it's important to not let that hate define you, to not let that hate, the hateful people, affect my life. I'm not gonna be held back by what other people think about me. I think that's important. And I think too many of us let what other people think affect us. And I'm not gonna let that, especially not hateful, ignorant people. I'm not gonna let them affect the way that I see life, the way that I live my life. So for those of you that don't know, my mom is black, my dad is white. I joke with people that on Christmas Eve, Jesus is black, Santa is black. On Christmas Day, Jesus is white, Santa is white. Because growing up, I was into my mom's family on Christmas Eve. They got a big black Santa that lights up in their front yard. And on Christmas Day, we went to my dad's family. Jesus, of course, was white. And like most white people in America, you know, the pictures they had of Jesus were white, and Santa Claus was white to them. I don't really like the term African American. I don't like to be qualified as a type of American. I'm just an American. My family, my ancestors have been in America a lot longer than probably a lot of you. I've been to the plantation where my ancestors were slaves, so it's not just a little thing like, oh, I'm black in America, my ancestors must have been slaves. No, when I was a kid, we used to actually take vacations to the family farm where my ancestors were slaves down in Missouri. It was destroyed in a flood in '93. I wish I understood at the time what it was, but I didn't fully understand, obviously, as a kid. And then my dad actually has some Native American in him, so obviously those ancestors have been here a long time too. So please don't qualify me as an African American, as a different type of American. I've never been to Africa. My family is American. Different people might have different opinions on that, but again, this is just me. This is how I feel. This is my experience. I also don't really like the term white privilege because, quite honestly, in my own life, I've seen quite the opposite. My mother is college educated, has a very well-paying job. She's a black woman who has worked hard and achieved quite a bit of success here in America. Her parents were married until the day he died. My grandpa died. She had 9 siblings. They all went to private Catholic school. And on my dad's side, he's from a broken home. His parents are not married. They divorced when he was young, and he did not go to college. He went to a trade school, which is fine. But so the idea of this white privilege, where my white male privilege, even where my dad should be so much more set up for success, that's not. My mom was set up better for success because her dad, and that's why, again, why I don't think you'd be held down by the color of your skin, because what I've seen, I see what my mom was able to achieve. She was, raised in the 70s and 80s and was able to accomplish what she's accomplished. And even before that, her dad, he was an educator, he was a poet, a published author. He was a black man, and he wasn't held back by the color of his skin. Sure, there was probably opportunities that he missed in the times that he was raised up, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that try to keep him down, but he was able to send 9 children to Catholic school. Very proud of what my grandfather accomplished, and he showed me that you can accomplish anything regardless of the color of your skin or what people are trying to hold you down. I learned that at a very young age, and I will not be held down by people who don't like me or or don't appreciate me or want to see me fail just because of the color of my skin. I refuse to let those people dictate what I'm gonna do and what I'm gonna accomplish in life. People even today that don't agree with interracial relationships say, look at the kids and the problems they have. Did I have identity issues? Yeah. Was it kind of weird being the only white person in a room full of black people and being the only black person in a room full of white people? I've been both. Not many people can say that. Yeah, it's tough to always be the minority. There wasn't a lot of role models that looked like me to look up to. Rod Woodson played for the Steelers, was an example of someone that I saw when I was younger that was half black. Now you see more of them. Obviously our former president Obama, Derek Jeter, Steph Curry, Zach LaVine, but there's still not as many as you would think maybe for 2017. I still get kind of excited when I see a half black person, somebody that's like me. So yes, I have struggled with my identity, but who hasn't? I don't care if you're black, white, short, tall, skinny, fat, whatever you are. Everybody, I think, struggles at some point, especially when they're young, with identity and trying to figure out who you are and where you fit. The answer that I found, and the same answer that I would give to any one of you questioning identity, is that your identity is not found in the color of your skin. Your identity is not found in how short you are, how tall you are, if you're good looking. Your identity is found in God and God alone, and what He created you to be. So if you're trying to figure out who you are and where you fit, talk to God. Find out what He created you for. Find out the dreams and the purposes that He put inside of you, the talents that He gave you. Your identity can only be found in God. It can never be found in the color of your skin or anything else. The only identity that you can have is in your Creator and your creative purpose. I went to private schools, Maranatha Christian Academy, so I was never the only black person in my class, but you could definitely count on one hand how many black people every year. Obviously that was an experience. Had a lot more white friends growing up. The only time, my parents didn't sit down and discuss race with me a lot. I feel like it wasn't necessary. I mean, I understood my mom was darker, my dad was white. As I got older, I understood kind of why, but they never really had to sit down and explain, she's black, he's white, this is what that means. We had black action figures growing up, G.I. Joes, and my sisters had black Barbies, and we had white Barbies and white G.I. Joes. That was never an issue. I knew that people just came in all sorts of different sizes and shades and colors. You know, I had full black cousins, I have full white cousins. The one time that I remember my mom having to explain to me that you're black was when I was in middle school, and guys were getting the highlights on top of their head. I had curly hair, longer curly hair then, and I asked my mom if I could get tips. She said, you know you're black, right? Your white friends may be able to get that in their hair, but that would not look very good on you. I'm so glad she did that, because I would have looked like Justin Timberlake. Remember when he had the ramen noodle hair? Not a good look. So I also went to private college. It was a little bit different. It was in Oklahoma, Oral Roberts University. There was a lot more black people there, but the black people kind of kept separate than the white people at ORU. It was interesting. I don't think it was like a purposeful segregation. I don't think they had problems with each other. It was just, it seemed like it was a different circle. But I think my college experience, and maybe my whole life experience, can be summed up in two stories. One, my freshman year, it was about halfway through my freshman year, in the middle of the cafeteria, I had mentioned something or said something about my mom being black, and my roommate stood up in the middle of the cafeteria and said, "That's what you are." He said, "I've been trying to figure it out for months." He'd gone an entire semester as my roommate every day with me, didn't know what I was, didn't want to ask what I was, which I guess, I mean, he could have asked, I wouldn't have been offended, but when you're mixed, you'd be surprised how many people come up to you and actually ask you, what are you? It's kind of a weird question. I don't get offended by it, but it's just kind of weird, because I'm an American, I'm a person, I'm a human being. And then my sophomore year, a friend of mine lived on my floor, a couple doors down, he's black, he came into my room with a friend of his to play Madden, and he said, "This is Josh, he's half black, so he can say the N-word. He won't, but just so you know, he can if he wants to." I thought that was interesting. There were times in college I actually joked about getting a shirt that says my mom is black, because one, so you didn't have to ask me if you're wondering. Two, if I say something that might offend you, if I was white, you know that my mom's black, so it's okay. So yeah, that's kind of my experience growing up mixed in America. That's not everything that I've experienced. That's a small percentage. If you want to know more, ask me. I think it's important to have real conversations about race. I don't think it's necessary to always bring up race in every little thing. Like, oh, he's good for a black quarterback. We don't need to go into that, but I think it is important to understand and to communicate, and like I said before, tell each other stories, listen to each other's stories. I just think it's really important to share our stories with people. And the important thing that I want, if you're going to take anything away from my story, is that I refuse to be held back by my ancestors or by the color of my skin, or more importantly, by ignorant, hateful people that don't like my ancestors or the colors of my skin. I'm very appreciative of what my ancestors went through to get to where we are today. I'm very proud of the marches in the street from Dr. King and the sit-ins and Rosa Parks on the bus and Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in sports. It's very important to me. I appreciate that, but I look at it and see how far we've come. Yeah, obviously there's still racism. Yeah, there's still problems, but we've just come so far, and I think it's really important that we take a look back to see how far we've come and appreciate what our ancestors went through. I know how good we have it now because of how bad it was then, and I refuse to be held back by the color of my skin or by what people think. Don't tell me that a black man can't be successful, because I saw my grandfather do it. I've seen family, friends be successful, not held back by the color of their skin. Yeah, it may be more challenging in certain places with certain people. I'm not gonna let an ignorant, hateful person keep me from anything, and I'm gonna achieve everything that God has put in my heart to achieve, regardless of what ignorant, hateful people. Karl Anthony Towns, I think, put it really well in an article he wrote for the Players Tribune when he said, there's more of us than there are of them. Yeah, there may be issues in America right now. Yeah, we see people fighting about race on the news, but there are more of us that don't fight about race, that don't hate people for the color of their skin, for the way they look, for what they believe. There are more of us than there are of them. So let's not get caught up, and let's not get hung up and get upset over the few that are hating. Let's focus on the more of us than there are of them. Let's focus on the positive. Let's focus on what we have accomplished, on what we can accomplish when we come together. Let's show them that love really is stronger than hate.